Okay, let's do this thing. Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to the Age of Tech podcast. Dushyant Verma, the CEO of SmartViz, is with us today. Dushyant, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Michael. I'm doing well, and it's a pleasure, and it's quite a opportunity that you're presenting to us, and tell you something about me, about SmartViz, and what we're doing.
Cannot wait to learn more about it. Can you give our listeners a little bit of your background for some context, and then we'll jump into the main part of this conversation, yeah?
Oh yeah. So my background has always been in product tech and data. I worked a lot with customers. Worked a lot with my partners and distributed technology. And the SmartViz was more like serendipity to me. I was visiting a number of these manufacturing facilities for the product that I
Okay.
was handling, and these were like small and medium factories had very good quality product. But again, when I'm putting my product into the hands of the customer, I need to be very, very sure about consistent quality, not just the one. So when you go and visit them, the processes and everything is okay. But when you go back, what is the check? So I asked my dear friend, who's now my CDO, Anurag, what should we do? How can we control the quality in a consistent way? He said,
Right.
why don't you take a picture? Because now what you would do is you can utilize the visual technology. It is so advanced and you would know everything. That was the start of our journey. And we realized that this problem of asset and its quality and the operational data is not just limited to the kind of factories that I was looking at, but it's all a pervasive problem. And in the last 1 year, we've built a model, we've built a technology that can democratize the data, the understanding of these patterns, and therefore detect defects and the anomalies. So
So,
we've been able to do that for. So this has always been there for a large manufacturer who can invest, wait for technology, but our technology is very nimble, very fast, and that can be turned around in this time. And so this way, I think what we would be enabling this new age is to enable such manufacturers to adopt technology fast, utilize it to understand their processes, monitor their assets, and therefore provide a much better quality than they would, and a consistent
so
quality.
what do? We use less expensive cameras at scale. We allow them to be given to SMEs, so smaller businesses, as opposed to large corporations that have kind of like an unending amount of money, right, to be able to do this. What is the innovation here? In other words, how are we now allowed to use these smaller cameras? What's the hardware and the software kind of combination to make this innovation possible?
A great question, Michael, because most of, if you look at the large corporations, they invest in heavy duty, large size cameras that enables them to detect even small defects. But a
Right.
small manufacturer or a medium manufacturer, they are constrained not just with the cost, but also with the time. They do not have, say, $250,000 to put down in terms of investment, or wait for 9+ months for its investment. What we've been able to do is we've been able to break this traditional machine vision into smaller modules that can be utilized at scale, and it gives them a faster way to adopt that technology. We can roll out a solution in about 6 weeks' time. So that is fast, and that is because of the proprietary technology that we have. We are able to. We just need about between 1 to 20 images, and we should be able to train a model, help you identify the effects, and also detect, more importantly, the anomalies, right? And put that back into wherever system that you want, whether you've got MES, SCADA, or PLC, however you want to utilize it. And this is done in 6 weeks' time. So now what our manufacturers have the ability to do is not really wait for those 6, 8, 9 months, but to experiment with this process, see if it works for them, because we are able to implement it fast. You get a fast ROI, and see whether it works for you or not, right? So there is no There is no a big investment that you have to do. So, in terms of technology and our USP, I think what we've been able to do is to make it modular. Earlier, which was like a full scale, full suite of products, we've been able to make it much more smaller. So, say
Right.
if you really want to just measure, you can go ahead and measure, or if you want to take more complex visual inspection use cases, such as getting the color oxidation or finding out some defect in cracks, you have the ability to do it. And also, we give the ability to do it one thing first and then second thing later, right? So you can start with the measurement and then pay as you go along, right? So this flexibility is what this customer needs, and that is what we've been able to provide through this innovation.
Yeah. So this modularity sounds like it's one of the biggest innovations. Can you talk as well about? I don't think we can have any conversation anymore today about technology, implementation of technology and software without talking about artificial intelligence, right? And if you're saying you're moving people from what was used to be like manually, just look at the end of the production line and say, this thing looks okay, which is not a great result, right? To actually employing technology to do this, the speed, some of this speed and some of the iterations must come from using AI. Like what role is it playing here? And how do you see it changing the way these types of inspections get done at scale?
Yeah, so there are a couple of questions in your question, and I would like to
There
step.
always are. I should stop doing that, but yeah, go ahead.
So I would like to step back and let me give you the premise. So AI has always been there. I mean, we do it subliminally, whether we are using Google, Facebook, or say any of these platforms. But
Good
what
point.
Chat GPT has done is to make it much more ubiquitous and give the definitive intelligence. Now, what has happened is, uh, I mean, and we tend to get these questions a lot from our customers. That is, can after some time, if I ask a question, would your system be able to provide that answer? Right? I mean, uh, uh, the Chat GPT is a language model,
Yep.
and the result that it shows, it does simplify the life, but you do not know what's the source of that data, right?
Right.
Now, the difference between the AI that we are working on, you have the data, and that is your own data. And what you do is you slice and dice in different ways to make it much more meaningful, right? You would always have the efficiency data or the quality acceptance data. But now what we tend to give with this is a lot more meaning to the data that you always have and get it more consistent. We digitize this process. We make your asset uh, more understandable and try to correlate it with the processes around, so that when you find a defect, you just don't know that it's a defect, but to go further down, you know, and try to find out why did the defect happen, right? We do it on the production line, which means you have the ability to stop and understand and then proceed and not really waste energy, manpower, and time, uh, and replicate those errors.
You know, you make this point about ChatGPT, these large language models, they just go out and get data from anywhere, right? And frankly, the results, we don't know where it comes from. We should. But if you have the manufacturing data yourself, so your data is segregated, the things that then it allows you to do, right? If you're building the proper data lake or the proper data management, is not just look at the defects, you're right, but it's to figure out where they came from, but also to create more consistency in the product. So even a small manufacturer now can keep up with what a large manufacturer is doing from a consistency and a quality perspective. Like it almost changes the whole game, no?
Absolutely, you're perfectly right in this. And what has happened in the last 3 years is because of COVID, large manufacturers have gone autonomous. They don't want to be in a similar situation as COVID, that without manpower they can't function. Now, what's happened is now this technology is percolating down, and the expectation is much more higher for now the manufacturers to deliver. So, like for our immediate customers, they provide to larger manufacturers. They provide to Tesla. They provide to John Deere, Caterpillar. And when we go to them, their one point brief to us, guys, we don't want to send out even a single defect. Number one. Second, when these guys come, we just don't want to show our processes, but also the underlying technology that really gives the reliability of our processes, right? So we don't want to be sounding inferior, and because we know that if we don't do so in the next 3 4 years, we're going to be replaced by a factory which is smart. So one thing you would agree with me, Michael, that the technology is changing in such an expected way. I mean, manufacturing and us, we just have to keep pace with it. In fact, what has happened is even in Amazon, the warehouses, which we think is like the state of art, after 3 or 4 years, they really think back in terms of technology. Is it really giving you the right kind of ROI, or is it the right thing? So
Interesting.
we need to be very cognizant of this. We need to be keeping pace with this so that uh, we've, we are able to provide something which is a lot more less time bound and does really solve the problem to the core.
Do you want to comment at all? And I like to make this point actually whenever we talk about SMEs, right? Because I think people's opinions, because it's in the name, small and medium sized enterprises, right, or small businesses. The word small is there, and I think people think that the impact that they have on the local, regional, and even global economy itself is small. But in Asia and in Southeast Asia, and I think this is true in most places, 90 something percent of all businesses are SMEs. And I think that that's true in the manufacturing space too. So again, just back to the implication of the tech is so large because it allows a small manufacturer in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in the Philippines to modernize the way they build and produce things like way faster than they could have ever done this before and in a way that's not that expensive, no?
Absolutely. You've touched on a right point, Michael. And even I thought that SMEs are like really, really small, but they are actually
Yeah.
not. In
No.
our data, in our research, the SMEs contribute close to about 67 of the total manufacturers' production, which means a manufacturer would be responsible only for, say, about 30 to 45%. The rest, 65, comes from small and medium
Wow.
guys.
Wow.
This is like an ecosystem without which the manufacturers can't survive. I mean, uh, we, we do inspection for small components, for differentials, for precision engineering, and all of these are critical components. I mean, we heavily provide to the automotive sector, and each of these components, even a single error, can land them this contract manufacturing into a big problem. I mean, we've heard of so many recalls. One recent was the Hyundai airbag, which itself could just be about 10 million, and not taking into account any penalties or blacklisting for this manufacturer. So
Right.
this is huge. The implication of the impact of these small guys. So I wouldn't really want to call them small. They are primarily medium. Our target size is close to about 100 million kind of a turnover for Singapore and about 30 million in India. They are large, but they still have the same inefficiencies as a small guy. They still want faster technology. They still want uh, cost-effective, fast ROI kind of a solution. But at the same time, they are have the ambitions of the bigger parent manufacturer. So I think we are in a very interesting time where we will see the embrace of technology in a much more rapid way than we saw in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Can I ask you this? Where are you based?
I'm based in Singapore, Michael, and my team is based in India. So
In India. Okay. So how many people?
we got close to about 15 people. Three of them have hardware specialization, and the rest are data scientists and AI engineers. So
It's got to be it's got to be an incredible team. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so I think we'll be one of the few teams which have got a unique combination of both hardware and software, and because like most, I mean, we see more and more that hardware is now coming to the forefront, unlike what it was about 10 years back, where people were talking about software, about SaaS. But now, even companies like Google started manufacturing phones. Nvidia, you can see their stock price. So it's a great age where software and hardware have to comply to each other, and so therefore we've tried to build this culture right from the start, where our hardware engineers and software engineers they work in tandem to solve this problem.
Steve Jobs used to quote a guy, and I can't remember his name. I was just trying to look it up while you were talking. But the guy who said something like, "If you're really serious about building your own software, you've got to build your own hardware as well." And I think it's really important. And you're right; it's really coming into the fore right now. And I think Nvidia is a really great example of this. The Nvidia story we can spend hours talking about. It's a different story, but it's really interesting too. Can you talk about where you think the biggest opportunities are? Is this a massive Indian opportunity? Is it a Thai opportunity? Right? Is this thing where do you see this stuff playing out?
I would say this is more like a global opportunity because uh, after the China thing, a lot of manufacturing has shifted down to the Asia and India. We see, so we've got partners in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Indonesia, and Malaysia, where the extra production that used to go to China is now coming in. But huge respect for China in terms of the technologies that they've employed.
Absolutely.
These geographies still, in fact, if I may estimate, we would be at least 5 to 10 years behind what they have. So, but I also believe that now the technology is going to increase at a much more rapid pace with AI and the kind of models that we can work with. So uh, the the opportunity is truly global. We also have a couple of instances and discussions going on in US where US is a great example where they are averse to employing people, and we are in talk with a design mold designing outfit which they say that if I employ someone, would cost me about 100,000, and then there are obviously the other laws in terms of filing it. Why can't I embed a system if it is a menial manual process, right? So, I mean, for us, the immediate opportunity because of our startup and because of our funding, we would still be more in Asia and India. But given the nature of the problem that we are solving, I truly believe it's a global opportunity. We have huge pockets of opportunity in both US as well as Europe.
It's interesting though, right? Because this idea of disaggregating or disambiguating a lot of the manufacturing outside of China, as sophisticated and as amazing as the Chinese manufacturers are, right? There are political reasons, economic reasons, geopolitical reasons, and stuff like that for some of this movement that's taking place. But the US is actually, after decades of not manufacturing anything, not even like chewing gum, now they're starting to manufacture a lot of stuff there, again, for strategic reasons, but also for economic reasons. I see that as a gigantic opportunity too. Can we talk a little bit about the status of SmartViz? You mentioned funding. You say you have a team of 15 people. So have you been funded? How are things going? And how's the business itself going as well?
I think we had a dream run in the last 1 year since we've started. We never thought that we could make it this week. So we ended, so though we are still very small, we got incorporated in Singapore last year. And in
Okay.
2023, in about 5 months of our operation, we delivered 43,000 USD revenues. What we want to do
Wow.
this year is about close to about a million, and we have a couple of good discussions that's underway with some of the big guys like Stellantis, Nissan, Honda two wheelers, and in the
Great stuff.
electronic space.
Yeah.
Uh, we've been funded by Antler, and given the nature of the problem that we are solving, we also have some revenue. So a couple of these help us. But what we are doing right now is to raise about 500,000 so that we are able to demonstrate the attainment of our revenues and also build our product. I mean, right now we have a library of these modules. We want to put them in the cloud. They will always be on-prem for now, but we want to make it on the cloud so that it's more accessible. Get some training and support there. Productize a little more of our offering and
Got it.
accelerate this because I think the next 3 years is a great greenfield opportunity in this space, especially this autonomous machine vision. We want to be the first in the industry to be delivering a truly autonomous machine vision platform for manufacturing, so that anyone, even with the basic knowledge, should be able to utilize our low-code, no-code platform and start the visual inspection on the fly, right? So that's the vision. I think every day we deliver on that vision, and that's what keeps us going.
So antler, I'm so glad you brought this up. Antler is a really interesting animal, and I don't mean animal meaning a living animal. I just mean the way it runs its business. It's kind of like a founder matching thing, right? And I'm curious, did you go into Antler with a co-founder already and with an idea, or did you just go in with the idea of building something and then came out with this? You know what I mean, right?
No, great question again, Michael. Anurag and I, we know each other for the last 6 years, and we
Okay,
got this out ourselves. We actually went to Antler for and pitched the idea to them. We said, "Hey, why don't you invest in us?" So, unlike the cohorts that's there, where they match you with the founders, we came in with a product. We came in with a team. We came in with some revenues and some clients on the books,
cool.
and they got us out. In fact, kudos to them. Uh, they bring discipline. They bring a lot more simplification of our business idea, especially when you talk the investor language. Not many of them are
Yeah,
into deep
understand.
tech, into the technology,
Yeah.
but how to make it palatable to them and how to make our vision much more streamlined, easy. Uh, that's what they've done. They're an integral part of our team. We keep going to them for advisory. And the unique part about us is, I think we'll be one of the few manufacturing and AI focused entities that they've invested in. They feel
Yeah.
that, especially in Singapore, there was a couple of guys like SDTA and Entrepreneur First. They're not doing a great job, but Antler, given its footing both in Europe and across Asia, they would be help us get us to investors, partners, and become more than just like providing a pre-seed sort of a fund, but help us grow and accelerate and deliver to our vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Adler's done, frankly, has just completely revolutionized the way investment gets done. And again, not just here, but all over the whole world, right? They've raised some more money for themselves, but they also have offices in like, I don't know, 30 countries now. It's kind of insane what they've done. You see in the team there are pretty amazing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we interact with the team, and we find a certain quality of the founders, and we tend to talk and liaise with a number of those guys working, say in the main in the more around the data analytics side, reporting
Yeah.
side, because that's like a huge uh, uh, I mean, deliverable that we provide to the manufacturers, something which is easily seen. So that's really complementary. So we find a lot of support from them.
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier that you went in there with some revenue, which I think is great. I mean, if you're building a company from scratch, this idea, at least in my mind, right, that sort of customer growth is the most important thing, but revenue growth doesn't really matter to me is anathema. And I love the way you guys went in with real revenue and real customers. And can you talk to me about what you learned from the earliest implementations, right? Because when you build a product, right, no matter how much research you do, you think my customers are going to use my product in this way and the result of their usage is going to be this output, right? But once you give it to them out in the wild, they're probably going to do things with it that maybe you didn't anticipate. So you learn some stuff there. What were these learnings that then you got back and said, oh, we can then build that into the product and then our other customers can use it? It makes the product more compelling. What was that like?
Great question again, Michael, and thanks for this. Uh, every day, and so like in our journey, like yesterday was new, today is new, and tomorrow will also be something new. So we always approach with this kind of a learning for all our implementation. Now, when we approached, I mean, it's a very simple thing, right? You take a manual process, understand and sit with the quality inspectors, classify those defects, put it in the system, and it gives it out for you, right? Now there were a couple of great aha moments or moments of epiphany for us. The first part was we realized that one of the customers that we went out to, he had 8,000 images and did not know what to do with it. Now, from our side, if we sat manually to analyze those images and annotate them, it would take us ages. We said that we need to, and plus, what they wanted, I said, the other guys have failed. Can you deliver this to us? He said, yes, we will, and we will try. We went back and we this was like a first base of a product where we were able to split the images into nanopixels and annotate each of them. We built this tool. So in just about 20-30 images, you get about a million data points, and that is what is required for
Wow.
the AI, right? We built this, and we were done, and that is something that we still use today in terms of all out, and that's what makes our technology really fast. So we went that, and we implemented this. The second part has always been more like a learning, and I mean, see, when you're trying to replace a manual or a human process, there is a certain quality, like 95%, 96%. Now AI can always exceed that. That's like, okay, I mean, I am able to do it much more faster. So a process which was taking about 4 to 10 minutes, I'm able to do that under a minute, right? So it'll just
Yeah.
give me that result, and I'm able to deliver, say, about 99.9% efficiency, because it's a machine. But the real part for us was when we went when we were able to detect certain anomalies, right? So a quality inspector would classify, say, around 5 defects at max. We would classify any defect that's coming, and he would know exactly if this defect is happening, why this is happening. But the moment of realization was when we found anomalies, right? So this was neither good nor bad, sits somewhere in between. And when we asked this guy, tell me what this is, most of the condition he would say it's good or it's bad. But there were certain instances that we would found it would neither belong to the category, right? It was neither good nor bad. And what
Interesting.
we've done over then is to find a defect which was not earlier possible by human detection, right? Because we have those
Wow.
five classification, which means there is a new kind of error which is there in the system, which is completely identified. Now, for us to go back, so all these previous errors would have some precedents and some some known occurrences causes. But this new one requires a complete new investigation, and that really told us that there is further to our detection, right? Detection is normally your operational data where you would take and off the asset. But then when the asset is getting manufactured, there is a lot of underlying influences. There is operational data and the reliability data of the machines, etc. Can that be congregated together to find a much more meaningful inferences of these defects? Right. So those are the things that we take back and provide much more meaning. We want to turn our quality inspectors into just people who provide numbers, into more like data scientists, so that they can provide
Yeah.
meaningful inferences, actionable inferences down to the production line.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that technology at scale, but AI specifically is changing, right? Is that it also means you're going to impact the type of people that get hired to do those jobs, right? Because if you turn a quality engineer into a data scientist, right, that means they're going to play a much larger role in a whole bunch of other different processes, right? Like they may change the entire manufacturing process. They may change the materials that get used. They may change the design. In a way, they may even change the sales, right? Because they'll see all this data and think, how can I now take all this data that I'm getting, which I didn't get before, and change the way the entire manufacturing process happens. But that also means you're going to impact the type of person that needs to do that, right? Because if you can literally have a data scientist watching the production line, it's going to be a very different input than a mere quality engineer, not to minimize quality engineers, but you understand the point. It's just very different, no?
Absolutely, I think that's like been a vision where we convert these guys into much more meaningful, and that's really coming of the age. I mean, now to be more relevant in the next 5 to 10 years, you have to be a little more than just finding out those menial tasks. Uh, it's going to be a very different world in the next 3 to 4 years, and we're preparing people for that. Even if they don't embrace it, they will have to embrace it, and we want to give them that input. However, it is more simplistic, more complex than what we say, because
Sure.
a manufacturing process, and especially for this mid-size small manufacturers, it tends to be very siloed. I mean, their whole emphasis is on the batch and the production and the output than actually the underlying factors. The underlying factors play in when any sort of defect gets flagged by the parent. What we want to do is to not just for this quality, but also for their management, to have much more understanding about their whole processes, give them meaningful, insightful, actionable points than just a number, right? Otherwise, 99.9% is just a number. I mean, it can go up, it can go down. Maybe it'll change contextually. But what we want to give is a meaningful implication of any defect that's going and that's identified, so that they are much more adept at taking these actions. I'm sure there was some way before it was lying in a different silo, but our intention is always to congregate, bring them together in one platform, so that not just the quality inspector, but it permeates down to the whole management, like bottom up, so that there is more believability in the production process.
Yeah. Look, it's so exciting. The stuff that you're building is just fascinating for me, right? The hardware, the software, and the way all that stuff goes together, the way it impacts the way it impacts industrial processes, manufacturing, and I think it's going to feed into the rest of the business as well. You're right. All these things are happening in separate silos, but the technology itself, yours is modular, but in a bigger modular way, you can connect all of this stuff that's happening there to other systems internally and have way more impact. Look, I want to let you go. I want to thank you for doing this, Dushyant Verma, the CEO of SmartViz. But I want you also to think about 6 months from now, 9 months from now, as you're growing, to come back on the show and talk about what happened that you thought was going to happen, the things that you didn't anticipate, how the business is growing, and stuff like that. I really hope you come back. Thank you again for doing this today.
Michael, I would love to do that, because it's an interesting to talk. It's not just I'm talking to you, but while talking, I realize, oh,
Yeah.
we've come this far, right? So I would love to share this journey. We would love to share our next milestones. And thank you again. It's a wonderful opportunity, and thank you so much for getting me on the platform.
It's my pleasure.